Now, very few things shock me anymore in college football, really the game of football in general. But one of those things happened early in this college football season, and that was LSU's coaching staff apparently learning nothing from last season offensively, and in-game defensively looked clueless when it came to adjustments versus Florida State in Week 1. How in the hell do you enter Game 1 in 2023 with the same quarterback, offensive line, and offensive coordinator, coming off a season in last year where your fortunes changed after you started attacking the deep third of the field in the passing game halfway through the season? And then you totally revert back to not pushing the ball down the field to start the next year. LSU has too good of an experienced coaching staff to put together that game plan offensively and then at least not adjust mid-game once they realize they screwed up. And I'm not saying it had to be Bombs Over Baghdad or Top Gun 3. You don't even have to connect on most of them. But Florida State had absolutely no fear of LSU's deep passing game, and that helped shut them down. And to be honest, FSU's defensive coaching staff was probably as shocked as I was while they were watching it. And if Jaden Daniels is too scared to push it downfield after having a full year of experience and realizing that was half their mistake, then put in someone else who will. Now, on the defensive side, the adjustments were just non-existent. Having Harold Perkins as a spy on Jordan Travis wasn't a bad game plan going in, make no mistake, because Jordan Travis didn't really show the ability to scramble, keep his eyes downfield, and throw last year. He would just take off. But this is Jordan Travis 2.0, the upgrade. He now extends the play outside of the pocket with his eyes down the field. And by using a linebacker as a spy and playing umbrella coverage behind it, you take an intermediate coverage defender out of the play. And then you wonder why Johnny Wilson is running wide open like that chick on top of the mountain from Sound of Music. Now, after they realized that Harold Perkins was being wasted as a spy, they should have just let him play the position normally and blitzed him occasionally. But they didn't. Now, I can't take too much from the Grambling game, but the coaching staff and Jaden Daniels have a chance to redeem themselves this week on the road at Mississippi State. But if they go in there and they play short and conservative on offense and they don't utilize all thirds in the passing game, this is going to be a tough game for them to win. But I believe in Brian Kelly more than that. And LSU doesn't have to spy Will Rogers unless he's working for the Russians. And no country boy's going out like that, I can promise you. I think LSU stuffs the run, and I think the Bengal Tigers turn it around starting this weekend, David.
Taking LSU, huh?
Taking LSU.
The Tigers.
They're back. Tigers.
I love it.
Go Tigers. Look, and again, last year, we saw them make... I could understand it last year because Jaden Daniels coming over from Arizona State, all everybody talked about was, oh, he puts the ball in harm's way. Oh, he throws the ball up for grabs too much. And it looked like he was a little bit nervous to push the ball down the field. But halfway through the year, when Brian Kelly got asked, oh, well, Jaden Daniels, he's thrown 8 touchdowns. He's got no interceptions. How great is that? Brian Kelly had a great answer. He said, yeah, that's nice. I don't want him to turn the ball over, but we're not getting a return on our investment. Because the first half of the year, it felt like LSU, every time they'd throw an intermediate route, 2 guys were hitting them. Every time they'd run the ball, 30 guys were in the box. And David, you learned from last year, as a player and as a coaching staff, how in the hell do you go out week 1 and make the same mistake?
Yeah, we were talking about that in our live stream. It was obviously surprising because I thought we got past that midway through last year. But what I was even more surprised with was LSU on defense when Florida State came out in the second half and said, you know what? We're just going to run the ball down your throat. We're just going to actually come out and beat you.
We're more
right?
man
Like, that's what surprised because Brian Kelly's the type of coach who goes into halftime and makes those sorts of adjustments. So we've talked about that. But I was mentioning this with our boy Blake Ruffino last night. We were talking about the LSU Mississippi State matchup. To me, this is a huge game for LSU because we haven't seen them play their best. Even against Grambling, we haven't seen LSU come out and say, you know what, we are the type of team that can live up to the expectations. I had them in the national championship. I think you had them playing in the national championship. And now you're going to open conference play on the road at Mississippi State. You don't just walk into Stark Vegas and think you're going to win a game. Mike Leach or no Mike Leach, rest in peace. Now, I'm interested to see how the conference opener looks for Mississippi State as well with this new offense. How many pass attempts did Will Rogers have the other day? 17 pass attempts. That's a completely different style of offense than we've seen from them. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about a kid in Will Rogers who could be the all-time SEC passing yards leader at the end of this season. So I still expect them to have a good year. And what I'm looking for is LSU going to go into this game on the road and say, you know what? Let's put the rest of the SEC West on notice because our loss is an out-of-conference loss, right? Let's go ahead and put the rest of the SEC West on notice that we're coming, and that last quarter and a half against FSU was an anomaly, and you're not going to see that the rest of the year. Or do they go in and they let Mississippi State hang around for 3.5 quarters, and it's anyone's ball game with 2 minutes left? Then you find yourself with 2 losses when you leave there.
Life's more fun when you're in on the action, so download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use our code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N, because new customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N. The crown is yours. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NEW YORK 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit cpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Camp Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dnkg.com/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Boom! And Blaine, when I look at LSU, and I said this after the game, I don't think LSU fans should panic. I think LSU actually has the personnel to be able to turn it around. We saw them turn it around last year. There's a big difference when I watch South Carolina's offensive line and just their lack of ability. That's just the truth. It's hard to put that into somebody. And then I look at LSU and the players and personnel that they have. I think there's a lot more room for growth, and Mason Smith's back on defense. So there's a reason I called the Florida State LSU game the biggest insurance game of 2023. You could afford to lose that game, and if you look at what Florida State's probably going to do the rest of the year, if LSU's able to thread the needle, which is going to be tough now when you have to go to Bama, that's going to end up looking like a really good loss, and it's all the way back in week 1. So when you look at LSU, do you see them being able to make that adjustment and have that growth and kind of get hot like they did last year?
Yeah, you have to. From a personnel standpoint, LSU has one of the best rosters in the nation. And LSU does a great job of putting a border around their state. And if you can control your state, they just got freaks walking around there on a daily basis. But the crazy thing about LSU that surprised me the most was this looked like the exact LSU team we saw in the first year last year. Offense played okay. I'd say their offense played a little bit better in this game, but special teams was bad. Special teams was bad, and that's still a huge piece. Defense, they're going to be fine in the SEC. But Florida State, I think, doesn't get enough credit on how good they are up front on both sides of the ball. Florida State up front on both sides of the ball are good enough to win the national championship, in my opinion, right now. Mississippi State, LSU's won 4 out of the 5 times they played. LSU's got a good matchup against it. So LSU is going to stuff the front against Mississippi State, stop the run, and then it goes to Will Rogers. This game's sitting at 9.5. I don't think LSU covers, but I think LSU looks a lot better. And this game's on the road. You can win this game and not look the best. You can look good. I think LSU's going to have to do what they did last year and get better from week in to week out. It's not a perfect situation. They're not a perfect football team. They're not who we thought they were from a discipline standpoint, from this being an organized standpoint. Sloppy football. It didn't look great against Grambling. Pretty sure they dropped 70. But, you are LSU, so it's not super tough. This game's going to be close now. I'm telling you. Yeah. It's not easy to walk in and win there. And Arnett's got these boys playing. Even if you went to overtime with Arizona, where they have 5 takeaways on defense, they believe there. All right, and if they rock those striped uniforms too, those go hard. So it's going to be even harder to win.
The prison breaks.
I like those things.
No, they actually
pretty
do
fire.
Too. I actually do too. I will say this. I think something we got to remember that LSU Florida State game. Yes, you're exactly right. Second half, FSU out physicaled them. They bowed up. They said we got more dog in us than you do. But don't forget, LSU got the ball inside the 10 twice, and FSU stuffed them like a DiGiorno cheese-crusted pizza.
Yeah, they did. And another thing for LSU fans, though, that game was tied with 5 minutes left to go in the third. So, like we're really coming down hard on LSU for a quarter and a half of play, which, hey, sometimes that's all.
The expectation's that high, though.
And that's when the football game is most important. At the end, where we really find out. And yes, the expectation was that high, but the trajectory of both narratives now is, oh, well, Florida State's obviously one of the best teams in the country, and LSU has moved, they're outside the top 15 just from one quarter of play. If I'm Brian Kelly and I'm LSU, I'm going in every single day saying, hey, we were in that football game. We have to go prove to the rest of the country that last quarter was an anomaly, and you're not going to see football like that from LSU for the rest of the season.
Well, they're dangerous now. Like you thought they were dangerous before the season started. Nothing's more dangerous than LSU and a bunch of kids who got embarrassed on national television in one of the first games of college football.
Yeah.
Like, they're pissed. All right, if you thought LSU was coming before the season started, like, I promise you, Brian Kelly can get in these guys' heads and start swimming around on a daily basis. And he can get these guys extremely upset on a daily basis. And the one thing that's scarier than LSU just as a regular team is a pissed off LSU. And I think you're going to see that.
Yeah, and we want to know what you think. We're taking live calls today, 1-855-236-3228. Tell us your pick. You pick an LSU. Do you think Mississippi State upsets them? Do you think they're going to cover? Speaking about cover, we're going to cover all of it. Hey, YouTube, you got us over 100K. We're very happy and appreciative, but we're also not complacent. That's what makes us great. So grab a friend, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it.